Hello and welcome once again to my weekly blog, Straight Bat, where as the title suggests, I play with a straight bat and talk about the big issues of the week. What's the big issue of this week? No, it's not the Sushant Singh Rajput case. The big issue of the week is, or certainly ought to be, the state of our economy. That's right, the GDP figures that came out this week have shown that the Indian economy has contracted by as much as 23.9% in the first quarter of 2020-21. That's the biggest ever contraction since these numbers began to be calculated in 1996. Now the fact is that it's not just the GDP numbers, but there are other numbers that stare at us today. Take a look at the job numbers. According to the Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, 18.9 million salaried Indians have lost their jobs since the pandemic in April, and that number, with August figures being added, will cross the 2 crore mark. More than 21 million Indians. That's just in the formal sector. Think about the number of people who've lost their jobs or faced salary cuts or have been forced to migrate from their place of work in the informal sector, the vast unorganized sector of this country. In that sense, we are facing, as some economists say, the biggest ever crisis that has confronted the Indian economy, and dare I say, with an uncertain future, because we really don't know when we will get a vaccine, when this pandemic will end. Now, those who are listening will say, there is Mr. Sardesai as a doomsdayer, looking at the glass as half empty. You could argue, where is the anger? Someone asked me the other day on a show, gussa kahan hai? Where is the anger that you talk about if the economy is doing so badly? People are okay. It's you television anchors, or some of us who actually want to focus on the economy, who are the ones who are predicting a doomsday scenario. It's a good question. Gussa kahan hai? Why is there no anger if the economy is in such a poor state? I'm going to give you 5 reasons today that I believe that there isn't anger at the moment, or isn't being expressed at the moment. Number 1, the fact is that post-liberalization, the notions of organized labor who would come together, call a Bharat Bandh, bring the entire country to a standstill like the George Fernandezes in the 70s or the Datta Samants in the 80s. The nature, the structure of the economy has fundamentally changed. The commanding heights of the public sector, where trade unions played an important part in the economy of a license permit Raj, that's gone. So there's been a systematic weakening of organized labor in the country. Unorganized labor, well, remains like it always has, unorganized. You have no choice as a contract labor, let's say working on a construction site, if suddenly your employer decides to terminate your work. You just go home, as millions have migrated when the lockdown started in March this year. They have no option, in a sense. As for the salaried employees, well, we are all atomized in our contracts. So we have no platform where we can express our anger if today you overnight lose your job. You're individualized in a way, and that's what post-liberalization has done. So it's reduced the capacity of labor to protest and fundamentally change the relationship between employer and employee. So that's one reason. Number 2, and this is there in the amidst the GDP numbers, that rural distress isn't as much as urban unemployment and urban distress. This is, the lockdown and the pandemic has largely created a disruption in the urban economy, much less in rural India, many parts of which have experienced a bumper harvest as well. So I would like to believe that the anger is simmering under the surface, but it exists in urban area, not so much in rural India, so it's not pan-Indian. This is one other explanation that I would have as to why more and more people are not sort of taking to the streets. Number 3 is the fact that the middle class, in my view, is living in a bubble. Nowadays there's talk of cricketers who have to play the IPL in their bubble. They don't see the world outside. They look at their immediate concerns. मेरा EMI पे हो रहा है कि नहीं? Can I be in a position to pay my EMI? That's an important concern. Number two, are prices skyrocketing? If inflation was to also hit double digit along with low growth rate, you will see the middle class getting more and more angry. At the moment, as I said earlier, the anger is simmering at the surface. The middle class seems to believe that we can perhaps ride this out for the next 6 to 9 months at least. We have sufficient savings. Yes, consumption levels are down, but we could save enough possibly for a future date. So the changing nature of the middle class and its growing influence, of course, in our society means middle class anger has not erupted at the moment. Number 4 is the state of our political opposition. Let's be honest. We have a political opposition that appears to be, or at least the principal opposition party, at war with itself. Yes, Rahul Gandhi, to his credit one must say in this instance, has taken up the issue of the economy for months now. But Rahul Gandhi's political equity has been systematically denuded and diluted by the ruling party, the BJP. They've, in a way, almost prevented Rahul Gandhi, or he has prevented himself, whichever way you look at it, from becoming a magnet for opposition unity in any form on issues like the economy. In that sense, he seems to be a lone voice, and he seems to have a work from home practice of putting out videos. That's not enough. You're going to have to put out an orchestrated opposition campaign on issues of the economy, where all opposition leaders come together as they came together in the 70s, when again you had a similar parlous economic situation during Indira Gandhi's time, 73, 74 in particular. So the state of the opposition means there is no voice to express some of this anger. And number 5 is a point I also make in my 2019 book. Modi hai to mumkin hai. This one line has in a way stuck with the Indian populace. They somehow have, Mr. Modi, to his credit you could argue, has created a relationship of trust, of faith in this all-powerful leader, the strongman leader, wherein a large number of people seem to believe that somehow or the other Mr. Modi will eventually ensure that things get better. I don't think that people have lost faith in the cult of Modi. And I call it a cult because I think it's more than just a political leader. It's a following that the leader has, which is almost cult-like. The fact is that a leader who is seen to transcend normal politics is a leader who people are willing to give the benefit of doubt. We saw it with demonetization, where again the economy appeared to be in trouble, but Mr. Modi's popularity was seemingly untouched at the moment, and we are seeing it even now. But while Mr. Modi may appear politically invincible, or dare I say indestructible, just a statutory warning: never take the voter for granted when it comes to economic issues. Let me give you a 6th and final reason, and that is the media. Surely this was a time for the Indian media to be raising questions constantly on the economy. But I'm sad to say that on that very evening when the GDP numbers came, most national Hindi and English news channels were more interested in tracking the movements in the Sushant Singh Rajput case. That perhaps in a way reflects why astute headline management is the new buzzword, where the state of the economy and the fact that millions are losing jobs, that entire sectors are in danger of being wiped out, seemingly matters less than the investigations in the Sushant Singh Rajput case. I just hope that in the months ahead there is a serious discussion, debates, on the state of the economy. Trust me, my friends, in the end, it's a case of it's the economy stupid. It is the biggest issue of our times, of our COVID times, where we don't know what tomorrow brings. That's it on this Straight Bat. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.